And sometimes the interventions done by the government to support the temples are also insensitive to the temple. For example, you can see the sacred kund at Chamunda Devi, where people used to take a spiritual dip, has now been opened up to visitors for boating purposes. And the main kalash of the Chamunda temple, which was made of gold, once there was theft in the temple, so to avoid that, it has been encased in a cage. So it is very important to tell the management, the stakeholders, the priests, the community, what is the value of this cultural heritage, so as the maintenance and management issues that are being dealt with should be dealt a little more sensitively. This is again a picture from the main route that goes to the temple, and how the pipes are opened up and how the structures that surround it have loose, hanging wires, and the structures are not safe enough as per the heritage criteria. Their age is more than 100 years. They're highly unsafe. And through these passages and corridors, the pilgrims and tourists and even the international tourists are made to walk, especially in the festival days when there is a lot of rush in the temple. At the non-physical level, we all go, we all offer prayers in the temple, we stand in the queues for a number of hours, but we seek what is still unknown. The sacredness remains a hidden fact, because I quickly go, I offer prayers, and I come back, take the prasad, and I think the pilgrimage is complete, but that's now how it is. It is incomplete. The sequence of performing prayers remains unknown to many. People do not know that you have to visit Shakti and then Shiva, and then sometimes they do not even know you have to purposely visit the Shiva temple, because that is how Shakti Peeth is meant for. And if you do not do so, your pilgrimage remains incomplete. There is no defined circulation pattern. They do not know how to go, how to spend time, where to go. The visitors remain ignorant to the cultural significance. Anybody who visits Himachal Pradesh may go and visit these temples because they're popular tourist site, but he may remain ignorant to its cultural significance. He will not come to know that this is one of the significant Shakti Peeth that happens to be counted in the list of 51 or 108 that are spread all over the SAARC nations. There are no means on site to acknowledge the visitors, especially the international tourists, about the cultural significance of this place. So for them, it's just a temple. They will go, they will offer prayers, go back and forget about these temples. So I think that there are a lot of challenges that need to be addressed for the management of such living religious heritage, which still continues to pull people there. I believe pilgrimage is said to be the power of 3 Ps: the power, the deity itself, the people who visit the place, and the place in itself, which has a significant geography. So to protect all these 3 Ps, it is very essential that we need to address the cultural significance of this place. Otherwise, complexes and people feel it is inconvenient in summers, so they are covering those courtyards, but that needs to be done religiously sensitive, considering the built environment, the growing visitor pressures. The numbers are exceeding the site's the tourist carrying capacity, which again is a threat to the built level. An interesting fact that I came to know while surveying the Naina Devi temple, that if I calculate the number of hours the temple is open to visitors and the number of visitors, which is a whooping 35,000 per day during Navratras, the mathematical calculation on the basis of hours and visitors allows only 1.38 seconds per visitor. So the question is, do we go and visit these temples for that 1.3 seconds? The religious sites are being converted to museums. People go, offer prayers, come back. They do not know the sacred value. They do not know how to conserve it. How to keep the living aspect of religious heritage maintained is another big question. Mismatch among the conservation experts' interest and the religious community. Sometimes the community does not want some initiatives to be taken, but that has to be done by the conservation expert, and sometimes it goes vice versa. So there is an urgent need so that both of them are at the same platform. They are very famous. They are one of the preferred pilgrimage site or sacred cultural landscapes found in SAARC nations like Pakistan, Bangladesh, China, Nepal, Sri Lanka. India outnumbers all other nations because 42 are found in India. They happen to be one case in India that I'm talking about that has been studied, these 5 temples, this pilgrimage circuit, but undoubtedly other Shakti Peeths in India and Asia must be facing more or less similar issues. And the major thing is the ignorance regarding heritage, negligence on part of government authorities, the temple management, private stakeholders, and to some extent the visitors also who go, who write on the walls. They will put prasad on the walls, they will offer prasad to the Devi, and which is gradually leading to deteriorating the built heritage. So I believe there needs to be an integrated approach for the management of such living religious heritage, which is a cultural heritage for the entire nation. It is very strange that India is abundant in sacred cultural landscapes, cultural heritage, but only one such property has made its way to the UNESCO listing and has been listed in the World Heritage List. So this approach, integrated approach, calls in for conservation of tangible and intangible both aspects. The community, the experts, and the stakeholders need to be at the parallel lines. They need to discuss. There should be members from the community into that committee that takes care of the management issues. There have to be measures to build and enrich the visitor sacred experience, because whatever the built environment is those temples, it actually hampers the visitor's sacred experience. If it is unhygienic, it is not maintained, it is not sensitive to the religious and traditional architecture. The new buildings that are coming up in the temple complex, they are all RCC buildings with glass. Even a shopping complex was proposed by somebody in the main complex where the Chamunda temple is situated, which was very strange to me as an architect. Creating heritage awareness and promoting community participation is very important, because as UNESCO also says, and which is very evident, that the value attached by that particular community to a heritage, it will be very different what others attribute to it. So it's very important to involve that local community. Regulating the site's carrying capacity, I feel, is very important, but this is a very big question that I lead to the stakeholders, the management, the government. India being the largest democracy in the world, can we do it or not? But this has been happening. This has started in some of the famous sites in foreign countries, and that is the only way, probably through online booking or opening up dates and asking people to pre-book, so that the number of tourists that reach the temple, they are not a harm to the built environment of that place. And as I've already quoted, that in Naina Devi temple, they witnessed 30 to 35,000 visitors per day. But if you ask the temple management, how many pilgrims can the complex, hold on at one time, they say the number is close to 1500 or something, if you talk about the area of the courtyard and the open space. So this is absolutely drastic variation. So we need to really think about regulating the site's carrying capacity. Thank you very much. This was the story of these 5 temples. If you have any questions, you can put them in chat box. You can also mail them. I would be happy to answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Harveen. It's been quite a trip to go to the Shakti Peeths and gain all that knowledge on the rich religious cultural tourism and the heritage of Northern India that you, as well as Lokesh ji, had shared with us where Uttarakhand is concerned. And we now move on to our last speaker for the Northern Zone. And I would like to request architect Vipul B Varshney to start her presentation now. She is an architect with a master's degree in urban planning, winner of coveted awards like UP Ratan 2013 and Shakti Samman 2015. She also has an expertise in institutional building of national importance. She has authored 4 coffee table books on Lucknow's heritage, and she has also done many works in the field of conservation, such as Khosrobagh, Allahabad, UP, as well as Samadhi Sthal, to name a few. It's a privilege to have you on our platform, and I would request you to kindly please start your presentation. Thank you so much.
A very good evening to all of you. Uh, Bajeshwari, can you hear me? I couldn't hear you the last thing which you spoke. I couldn't hear. Is my voice audible?
Yes, yes, your voice is audible.
Okay, I think there's some problem with my this thing or what. I don't know. I couldn't hear. I just adjust them. Okay, so it was a really good session, and of course, I was so engrossed in the Shakti Peeths of Himachal by Harveen that it's really very difficult to come back to Lucknow. And but of course, I'm here to give a small presentation on Lucknow, the city of dreams. And I would really take this opportunity to thank ICOMOS India, especially the Cultural Tourism Committee headed by Madhu Hotri. She did a lot of coordination of due to of hard work that this has come a reality, and she'd been planning for so long. So congratulations, and now I start my presentation, Lucknow, the city of dreams. I would start the screen share. So now, from Himachal, we are towards down, little down, and we have reached Lucknow now. And it's a tier two city in the province in the state of Uttar Pradesh, and has vast layers of different periods. Say from being a Hindu state, then to, of course, after the Islamic invasions, it majorly became a Islamic state, and of course now. So we'll be unveiling all the layers one by one, and I hope it would interest you a lot. Now, Lucknow in spirit and soul is what, as of now, we think is of abundance of all things which are fine and fragile and beautiful. So it has been recognized as an epitome of arts, culture, sophistication, and beauty. That's what people think of as Lucknow. But it's not doesn't manifest only in its monuments. It's basically its lifestyle, its elegant speech, its delicacy of etiquettes, and that's how it's a wholesome experience. Now, if you talk of architectural skyline of the city, we might take a simile of a Persian poetry. Like in Persian poetry, the poetry or the poet is not being appreciated of being taking a new topics, but taking a very mundane and common topic, but interpreting in a very interesting and in a way which has not been listened earlier. So in the fresh interpretation to bear an old and well listened stories is the beauty of so much Urdu poetry, is same as in Lucknow architecture. Of course, it has Islamic elements, it has Rajput elements, it has colonial elements, but the harmony which it manifests is somewhat so balanced, and it is wholesome and beautiful as such. So, legend says that Lord Lakshman, he founded the city in the Treta Yuga, and of course, it was a hillock at that time. And but afterwards, we read in history that it became the western gateway of the fortress of ancient kingdom of Kaushal, and then it was also known as Choti Kashi because Gomti River flowed there, and around in 1000 BC, a lot of pilgrims used to visit this place, Hindu pilgrims, because it was there was a big ashram of Kondil Rishi until like now it's known as Kudiya Ghat. It's the name is now Kudiya Ghat, but it was a big ashram at that time. And after that, many things, and it was, as per Wheeler, the very famous historian, it was one of the 10 centers where Aryans came in ancient times. And after that, in fact, a lot of artifacts of Shunga period and Kushana periods, they have also been found here. After 12th century, during the attacks of Muslim invaders, these temples and these adjoining areas were damaged considerably. So now, after these invasions, if we come to Mughal period, there's a Nadan Mahal still exists of that period, of the Mughal period during the time of Akbar. Sheikh Abdul Rahim, that famous Rahim, the poet, he stayed here. And then there's one Akbari Darwaza also of Akbar's time, very much here at the Shahganj. And at the time of Aurangzeb, his governor Shah Kuli Khan, he got Tile Wali Masjid, the very famous Tile Wali Masjid made, which you can see down below here. And there is a Muhammad Shah ka Tila as well. There was a dervish whose grave is there. So we have this layer of Mughal period as well. Now, after the Mughals, when they lost their control over the city, the sheikhs, they captured the city. The Afghans, a tribe of Afghans, which who stayed here, and they captured Lucknow, and they built Machi Bhavan. Now, Machi Bhavan is the place where now the modern King George Medical College is located. So that is the place. So we have reached the period after the Mughals. Now this is the period of Nawabs. It is late 18th century when a Subedar appointed by the Mughals from Delhi, he arrived in Awadh region, Faizabad to be specific, by the name of Sadat Ali Khan Budhan Mulk in the period 1775. He came to Faizabad and he made the capital of Awadh as Faizabad. Then came Safdar Jung, and after that his son Shujauddaulah in the period 1754 to 75. And after that, his son Asafuddaulah, he shifted the capital from Faizabad to Lucknow in the year 1775. It is his making, his efforts, which made the Lucknow we see today, the Imambaras of Lucknow and quite a few famous monuments which we see today. So after Asifuddaulah, Asif Jah Mirza, he was appointed, but he was deposed by the British. And then Asifuddaullah's brother, Sadat Ali Khan, was brought from Banaras by British, and he was put onto the throne. After him, Ghaziuddin Haidar in 1814, then his son Nasiruddin Haidar, 1827, and then again his uncle, the brother of Sadat Ali Khan, was put on throne by the British. He was Muhammad Ali Shah, and then his son Amjad Ali Shah in 1842, and then finally the very famous Wajid Ali Shah in 1847, who was exiled to Calcutta by the British after the First War of Independence. Then, of course, we can see this Hazrat Begum Hazrat Mahal, and then his son Birjiz Qadr, who was exiled in Nepal, and he died in Calcutta after some time. So that's what the chronology of the Nawabs of Awadh is. And it's basically their contribution, the maximum, which is basically the contribution which made the Lucknow of today, the heritage which we see all over the place, the tangible heritage and the quite a lot of intangible heritage which Lucknow sees today. So coming to the Nawabs of Lucknow, if we start talking of their buildings, now first we have to be clear that they were very fond of landscaping. They were very fond of River Gomti, and their palaces and most of the buildings were along the River Gomti. And all the festivals like Holi and Diwali, even the Hindu festivals, they used to celebrate on the banks of the river in the fish-shaped boats, in the peacock-shaped boats, and various decorative boats. Even boats were brought from Calcutta. One was the Sultan of Awadh, brought by Nasiruddin Haider. So they were all along the river Gomti, and the gardens were on the Charbagh pattern. Now, if we see the Nawabi architecture, we have to divide the phase into two. One phase would be from 1775 to 1800, and the other from 1800 to 1856. So in the first phase, if you see, it was basically the Nawab Asafuddaula and Nawab Sadat Ali Khan contribution, and it witnessed the exuberant building activity, and it was basically a traditional phase, and it represents the adaptation of the Mughal architecture, which was already in decline. On the other hand, it was also the time when the very famous Frenchmen, Claude Martin, and the engineers of East India Company, they had started building buildings in Lucknow, and which had deep impact on the architecture of Lucknow afterwards. In the second phase, it was basically a hybrid style of architecture, which was later termed by Percy Brown as Indo-Sarcenic architecture, which had fluted domes, ogee arches, arabesque foliations, and a lot of medley of Eastern and Western elements. So it was predominantly basically a derivative of decorative Deccani architecture, which was profusely decorative in terms of color, texture, and patterns. Now, if we talk Lucknow, we cannot start the conversation without talking Muharram, because it is basically it was majorly a Shia city, which was tried to, in fact, brought into focus by Nawabs. For that, they had built many Imam Baras. Now, what are Imam Baras? Basically, Imam Baras are congregation spaces of Shia sect Muslims at the time of their festival called Muharram, where they perform the mourning of the martyrdom of Hussein at Karbala. So they are derivatives. Basically, they are inspired from the Rozas of Persia, which had basically 3 bays, and the central bay had a grave with the light falling over it in the center on the grave itself. So that's the basic inspiration of Imam Baras, and Lucknow has more than 150 Imam Baras of Nawabi period, and still we have quite a few of them. Maximum number are, of course, in bad shape, but still the city boasts the maximum number of Imam Baras. That also gave rise to a very charged poetry called Sozkhwani. The way they express their grief in a sing-song pattern, that's known as Sozkhwani, and it becomes a hallmark of Muharram, which the pilgrims or the people from all over the world come to listen to this Sozkhwani. So this is also one of the very important intangible heritage of Lucknow, this part. Now coming to Imam Baras again, the ornamentation has special salient features because of the lime mortar which they use, made of seashells and mother of pearl, crushed into powder form, which give a sheen of marble-like and a strength which even the cannon cannot shatter it, the walls made of that. So, and these patterns which are carved out in this lime mortar, they had a beautiful geometric designs, then flora and fauna, then of course jali work, calligraphy, lot many experimentations had been done over here. So even the chicken curry had the inspirations from these calligraphy and pattern stucco work. That's what it's called, from these imambadas. Now, these are some of the buildings of that period, that Nawabi period, all the imambadas, and one is the masjid, and of course the Rumi Darwaza, the trademark of Lucknow. Now, coming to the most famous building of Imambara, Bada Imambara complex, which is the Bhul Bhulaiya, as it's known all over India. It has a main hall which is almost 160 feet by 53 feet. And it has a slab of almost 16 feet thick, which is estimated to be 2 lakh tons in weight. Now, actually, in the nawabs, they wanted to basically dominate, or rather outshine the Mughals, and in that effort, they wanted to create something huge and something better than what Mughals built. And in this competition, they had contributed Lucknow a lot many tangible heritage monuments. So in fact, to compete with the Mughal buildings, this hall, which is 160 feet by 53 feet and a vaulted roof without any column support, has a slab of 16 feet thick. Now, to make it light, they have scooped out the material from inside, and by virtue of which there are openings made which descend or ascend. And if you see from the southern side, it had almost 489 openings, which tends to confuse the visitor. And it was basically made to confuse the enemies at that time. Now, this from in the inside, it is divided into 3 halls: the main hall, the central hall, and the 2 side halls. One, the China hall, the other, the Indian hall. And the Indian hall has basically the roof of shaped into watermelon, which is fluted like kharbuza. It's called kharbuze wala kamra. So now this complex has also has a Shahi Bauli, which has a special feature of, like, if a visitor enters the Bauli, its reflection is seen in the water down below. So that's the Bada Imambara complex. Now, this is from the inside. You can see the beautiful stucco work, the Kharbuze wala kamra, and of course the uninterrupted long spans of the central hall. Now, coming to the Chota Imambara, or as we call the Husainabad Imambara complex, is designed on the Charbagh pattern, which has a axial symmetry as a central stream, and the structure itself has a gilded dome and has a beautiful turrets and minarets, which give its magnificence. And there's calligraphy on the facade in black and white, which gives a contrast to the gilded dome above, and that basically gives its beauty. Now, the large hall is green and white. It's called Azakhana. Azakhana is decorated with chandeliers and crystal glass. And this contrasting beauty with the calligraphy has this special place in the monuments of Lucknow. this now, if we talk of monuments and we leave chicken curry, that would be not appropriate. Now, chicken curry has had, of course, supposedly around 200 stitches at the Nawabi era, but now just 20 of them are known. All of them are extinct because of commercialization. And it's a very popular story that how it came to Lucknow. It said that Sher Khan, a very poor peasant who had a visitor, he was asking for shelter in the night. He gave the shelter, and while leaving, he made him learn this art of chicken curry, by virtue of which he said that he would not go hungry in future. So it really came true, and chicken curry became the most popular craft of Lucknow, and till date it has become world famous. Now, in fact, how it became patronized by Nawabs, it said that Wajid Ali Shah, the last Nawab of Lucknow, he had almost 365 females in his harem, and to attract the attention, these begums used to prepare one topi each for the Nawab each day. Then whichever topi was the most beautiful, the Nawab was used to entertain that begum. So that's how this art of the chicken curry flourished in Lucknow. In fact, Zardozi has also a special place in the market, in the crafts of Lucknow, and it was brought by Turku Afghan sultans in the 12th century. And of course, all the signature costumes of Lucknow have either Zardozi or chicken curry, which Lucknow boasts of. Now, Kesar Bagh Palace Complex is one building in the second phase of Nawabi architecture, which was literally a paradise on earth made by Wajid Ali Shah, and it was destroyed by the British after the First War of Independence. It was basically on a charbagh pattern, which is a central baradari, and of course the charbagh pattern gardens with the water streams crisscrossing the gardens, and the quadrangle along which the Zanana palaces were present. And along the boundary, there were quarters for the staff, which were all inward looking with no door and windows showing outwards to the city. And it was it was like it had beautiful gardens. You can see the vineyards, and it was in fact it was called Lanka since it was ochre golden color. And Wajid Ali Shah used to play as Kanhaiya or Krishna in his plays over here. Now, kebabs, coming to kebabs, the cuisines of Lucknow have a special place in the heritage of Lucknow. And how come Tunde became so famous the world over? It's said that due to the infamous couch potato nature of the Nawab, he had no teeth, and there was lot of experimentation, and this thing was happening in the Bawarchi Khana of the Nawab, and this soft and which required no chewing, it was discovered by a person called Murad Ali, and he had lost his hand while flying kite, and he fell from the terrace. So he was known as Tunde, and since it was discovered by him, that kebab came to be known as Tunde ke kebab, and it supposedly has 160 spices, and it's a family secret. It's not given away as yet to anyone. Now, another layer of Lucknow architecture is of course, the colonial architecture, or the architecture which was built by Englishmen or the Frenchmen of East India Company. And this Lamartine is one shining example, and it's a crown in the jewel of Lucknow architecture. In fact, it's built in a 200-acre area, and it has again an axial symmetry, which on the eastern side has lake and forest area, and on the western side has formal lawns. Now, it's basically inspired by Mughal architecture, and it's said that Claude Martin, the Frenchman who had built it, was inspired by Mughals. And the raised plinth, as you can see in the building, is due to that. And but since he was a army man, the military elements are also very much there. The 12 lions guarding the circular bastions on the terrace, you can see. Then, of course, the battlements and the turrets on the top they are very much evident. But the main feature is the intersecting arches on the central tower, which we can see. Instead of a dome, there are two intersecting arches. Though this has become a signature element of Lucknow architecture, which was copied and by many builders afterwards and found in many Lucknow buildings. So, and in fact, this building has passive way of air conditioning also. The 8 circular ducts we see in the plan have only 4 of them are used for the foundation, and the other circular ducts, they are used to bring in fresh air from the subterranean level and and to circulate the air on the floors above. And again, we can see the beautiful stucco work inside the chapel, the halls, and which is again done by the lime mortar made by the powder of seashells and the mother of pearl. Now, coming to residency, it was basically a complex of buildings which was basically the residency of the resident of the East India Company, and it was built by Sadat Ali Khan, since he was brought by them, and it was a complex on the river Gomti on a hillock, which had a beautiful view of the Gomti on one side, and the other side it had the view of the old city, seeing all the major buildings. So again, this was built by Lakhori bricks and lime mortar and an admixture of pinkish brick ballast, though that were very prominently used in those times. And the buildings had square or rectangular double-storied structures, followed by popular pattern of European villas, the central halls, the side rooms, verandas, raised porticos, flat roofs, and there were some underground rooms were also there, which provided respite in heat months. So now coming to Dilkusha, again, this was a summer retreat of the Nawab, and again built by a European, Major Gore Ouseley, and it was a copy of Seaton de la Velle of England. And again, we can see the pediments, the orders, and of course the lime mortar, plaster, but pointing down to mimic the stone masonry of Europe. And of course, this was used as a maternity home for the Begums of the Nawab, and it had hunting lounges adjoining the forest area. Now, after the First War of Independence, the British had controlled the city, and they made beautiful colonial architecture buildings all over the city. and among them some churches, and of course the very signature clock tower, which was built in 1881, had the architect Richard Roskill Bain, who was invited from UK for the first time. And in fact, it's said that he was the first British architect who was invited to India, and he made this first structure. And then he was sent to Calcutta, where he built many more buildings. So this was the first structure made in India by a British architect. Then, of course, Lishman made the medical college, the university. Then Sir Samuel Jacob, he had made the Victoria Memorial, the famous Charbagh railway station, and many more buildings. Even the council house was built by Henry Lancaster and Thomas Lodge in Art Deco, Hindu, View Art styles, and they added a bold tower to the skyline of Lucknow. Now, coming to the gastronomy of Lucknow, there are no end to it. In fact, it's said that moti pulao was made by stuffing the gold leaf and the silver leaf in the neck of the chicken. And it was the aroma which was there afterwards. It was just mouth-watering. And but there's a difference between the Mughlai cuisine and the Lucknowi cuisine, since the Lucknowi cuisine has less of spice, it has smoother texture, and because of French influence, it has multiple strainings, and distinct attention was paid to the aromas and the colors that added to the richness of the dishes. And it was subtle, more subtle than Mughal cuisine. And of course, one of them is Makhan Malai, which is found in Delhi also, but it was brought by Afghans. That it was made by the goat, by the milk of horse. Here it is made by the milk of cows. That's a difference, and that's the modification which it had coming to Lucknow. And Dampakt cooking, again, it was brought by, it was rather started at the time of Asafuddaula, when there was a great famine in the region of Awadh, and he wanted to provide food to everyone. So these lot of rice and vegetables was put on slow flame in a sealed container, and the food was available 24 hours to everyone in Awadh. Now, if you see the number of tourists coming to India, Tamil Nadu has maximum of 20.6%, and UP is on second place with 12.9%. But in spite of this much of tourism, Lucknow lags, and with so much availability of tangible and intangible heritage, Lucknow lags a lot in this area. And if we see and compare the percentage, Lucknow residency as comparing the major other monuments of the state, Lucknow residency has 6.14%, and such a popular Shravasti Buddhist place has 25%, and Jhansi Fort has 0.99. So that means Lucknow has a lot of potential which has not been tapped as yet. So this proposal has been rather given by INTAC and otherwise from our behalf also, the Chhatar Manzil complex to be readapted as living heritage cultural center. It's an old palace from the times of Sadat Ali Khan, 1800 and say 20s time, and now it has been proposed as a living heritage and cultural center to the government, which might boost the tourism and rather add to the infrastructure available in the city at the moment, which would be having cultural museum, festival cultural grounds, amphitheater, shop, mela shops, dastarkhan. Then there's a boat trail to be is also proposed in the Gomti, which is not present at the moment. Arts and crafts hearts, and of course other amenities. Now this is the basic plan, which has exhibition halls, the Science Museum, the souvenir shop, the Costume Museum, the Interpretation Hall, the Audiovisual Room, the Living Heritage Home, and restaurants, and of course, the kitchen, adjoining kitchen. Here it is proposed that we can have festivals like Bhairavi Utsav, showcasing the music of our Kajri, Thumri can be showcased, and Basant Utsav, which can have Patangbazi, Baterbazi, Murgabazi, which was so famous and so popular in olden days. Then Amr Pallav Utsav, like mangoes of Lucknow are very famous, which we can showcase. Kitabiyat ka Mela, calligraphy, the Sahityak Utsav. We have so many literators like Raj Bisaria, Amritlal Nagar, and other people. And Muharram can be showcased at certain time of the year. Then, of course, Kathak and dance and music. So many festivals can be held in these amphitheaters. This is the view of the conserved building. But of course, the carrying capacity has to be seen as stated by the earlier speakers, and hospitality infrastructure and transportation infrastructure has to be present before these things have to brought in. Now, as per Sunday Telegraph, London, Lucknow is one of the 5 most livable cities in India, where every citizen enjoys high quality of life and access to basic services and amenities, and where local culture, crafts, heritage are preserved and promoted. But still, it lags behind. That means it needs a lot of efforts and measures to bring it on a Lucknow, at least India's map of tourism. So with that, I complete my talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Vipul ji. It's been a lovely trip down to Lucknow for all of us, and we've seen a lot of diversity here in the North Zone itself, right from Uttarakhand to Himachal Pradesh, and now with Lucknow. I thank the 3 speakers that spoke, and thankfully we have Madhuji, architect Madhuji, with us now after a lot of technical glitches. So we're happy to have her here, and I'm going to request her to shed some light on our upcoming 2 webinars as well. So Madhuji, could you please...
Namaste, everyone. My sincere apologies on behalf of NSCCT, and thank you, Brijeshwari, for keeping the session going. And thanks to the wonderful speaker, starting from Dr. Ori. I'm truly the variety we have in the speakers and our country. And our speaker, Dr. Harveen, you have done a wonderful job. I'm sure now I'm quite, I would say anxious to see Himachal with you. And yeah, Vipul has brought me back to Lucknow. I always wanted to see Lucknow from Vipul's eye. Thank you, Vipul. And I quickly request one of the 2 people in our audience, Dr. Usha Mangipuri. Are you there, Dr. Usha? Brijeshwari, can we unmute Dr. Usha?
Yes, absolutely. I'll just do that. One second.
Yeah, and Dr. Malvika Patania is here from
yes.
Himachal. Thank you very much, beautiful viewers, and giving your valuable time and staying with us with all the glitch. So, ma'am, Usha ma'am, would you have anything to say about connecting this with school children?
I think Usha ma'am hasn't unmuted herself yet, but I have sent both Malika ji as well to a request to unmute herself. So, just a second, I'll do that again.